this lesson, we're going to take a look at self-concept. As nurses, we need to understand self-concept. And I'm sure you're asking yourself these two questions. What is self-concept, and why do we need to know about it? Well, first off, self-concept is like this general principle of identity. It's how people identify themselves. It influences how they feel, what decisions they make, how society influences them. And it's another way that you can empower your patients by building up their self-concept. As nurses, we use it to plan care and plan for their needs, like their needs for resources, and then we can intervene if we need to. Self-concept is really complex, and it can quickly change depending on which concept we're talking about. Sorry. The main ideas, though, there's 4 of them that we're going to talk about today. Identity, body image, role performance, and self-esteem, which is different than self-concept, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And the first one we're going to talk about is identity, which is how a patient views themselves in comparison to other people. So it's how someone is different from others. It's done through like self-observation, and it's heavily influenced. So parents, role models, friends, culture and belief systems will do it. Sexuality will also influence a patient's or a person's identity. For me, Robin Williams was a huge, huge influence on my childhood, which kind of attributes to my goofy and animated nature sometimes. So that's how he influenced my identity. Now, one thing you're going to notice in this lesson are these things called stressors. And when I say stressors, these are both positive and negative things, but they're basically things that stimulate a difference in that concept. So stressors for individuality are like cultural and societal. So if you have a group of friends, or if you're in a group of friends and they all shop at the Gap or Express or Old Navy, and everybody's kind of the same and they all have similar interests, that patient or person may also shop at the Gap or any one of those stores because they are heavily influenced by society. The other thing are things like personal interest. So if you feel empowered by like a certain type of hairstyle, then that can contribute to the patient's identity. It's definitely most impactful during adolescence. Grounded individuals who have great support system and positive role models with very few of these stressors may end up having a better self-concept than those who don't. Body image is a cornerstone of self-concept, and you'll hear about body image concepts throughout. Anytime you're dealing with psych stuff, or we're dealing with self-concept based stuff, or things that contribute to how a patient sees himself or herself, and it's based on really 2 things: how we see ourselves aesthetically, or how we feel that others see us aesthetically. This one is heavily influenced by society, and it changes throughout the lifespan. So pregnant women can have body image stressors that change their perception of their body. As you get older, gray hairs. I've gotten more gray hairs in my beard, and that is attributed to changes in how I perceive myself. Not that they're bad things. I consider it as wisdom, but for the most part, it's how we perceive our concept of who we are aesthetically, and it attributes to, and it will affect the self-esteem. Stressors for this one are definitely changes in appearance. So like I talked about, pregnancy, age, surgery. So like this ileostomy will definitely contribute to how someone perceives themselves. Some people perceive ileostomies as, and I'm going to put this in quotes, but gross. These people are highly misinformed. But for patients that have ileostomies, like they have a need for it. So it's going to contribute to how the patient views their own body. And it just contributes to this body image perception. The other 2 things that you may not think about are rape or assault. Both of these things are stressors to the perception of, or can be a stressor to the perception of body image. Role performance may not seem like a part of self-concept, but here it is, and here's why. We're social creatures, and we feel like we need a role. So we need to have a role within our family, or we need to have a role within society. And it's important that this role reinforces the sense of who we are, our sense of self. It really helps to, sorry guys, I can't write today, sense of self. And it really contributes to this idea of role performance. It feels like it gives us purpose. Difficulty in this can lead to decreased self-concept. So if we don't feel like we can contribute to our role, then we feel like like our self-concept may be diminished. Here's the stressors. So role changes. So let's say you have the breadwinner in the family, and they're hospitalized, right? And they can't go to work. Well, now the spouse has to become the breadwinner, and this could put a lot of stress on that. On the spouse, because it's contributing. I'm not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be doing this. So there's a lot of, it can definitely change how they view themselves. Role ambiguity is another one. So like this guy, this is Walt Whitman, famous poet during the Civil War. This dude was a nurse. He was a volunteer nurse, and this is his nurse right there. But typically, guys are supposed to be not nurses, but we're finding that that's changing. And especially like for women in the corporate world and politics, women are forging the way, and they're becoming more respected and more successful. And so these things contribute to our idea of self-concept. And for people that have really, really positive ideas of self-concept reinforced by the stressors of, hey, you know what? I don't necessarily, just because of my gender, shouldn't exclude me from this particular field discipline or this vocation. I definitely can do this. This is so this is a big contributor to role performance. We all hear about self-esteem, and we really want to talk right now about what self-esteem is. And self-esteem is how you feel about yourself, which is different than self-concept, which is what you know about yourself. Self-concept has to do with knowledge, and this has to do with what you believe or what you think about yourself. And they're very different. But what self-esteem does is it's an evaluation of worth. It's a reflection of our feelings. It includes our aspirations and our goals. Like, what do we do? If we accomplish this goal, then it definitely reinforces our self-esteem. And the process is continually about throughout life. Things like chronic illness can contribute to self-esteem. Hey, chronic illness sometimes means that your patient can't work, and if they can't work, they can't contribute. Therefore, it actually diminishes their self-worth. Shortcomings and challenges. If you can't live up to the goals or your aspirations, that will contribute to diminished self-worth, or it'll feel like failure, which negatively can impact their self-esteem. So what do you do about it? You're the nurse. This is your job. You got to take all this knowledge of self-concept, and we got to plug it in, and how does it fit with our patient? The biggest thing you can do is you can identify changes in self-concept and anticipate challenges. You can find your resources that you need. If your patient's getting an amputation, expect that they're going to see it as maybe a challenge, and that they may have a body with an issue with body image, right? They don't feel like they may not be able to feel like they're going to contribute because they can't work. So their self-esteem may be impacted. Their role performance may be impacted. So it's not just this, oh, hey, I have a change in my body. Like I said in the beginning, it's multifaceted. You can plan for future care needs. So, hey, I need to make sure I get this guy the right resources. And the other thing is it can contribute to progress. So if you help your patient that has an amputation, and you help them transfer from the bed to the chair, and they start to get the hang of it, and then they finally do it by themselves, that empowers them. That gives them progress. That shows them that they can, hey, those are actually positive attributes to self-concept. Autonomy is, especially for this patient right here, your amputee. If you educate and you provide your resources, sometimes education by itself can actually help to improve self-concept because it's all based on misinformation. Especially people that have negative perceptions of themselves, sometimes just by educating them and being proactive, you can help your patient sooner. You can provide them the right resources, and before long, they get to develop this positive self-concept. And today, when we talked about self-concept, we really focused on health promotion and communication with your patient, and then also how human development impacts our patient's self-concept. So let's recap. First off, self-concept includes identity, and it's how the patient views themselves as different. Body image is how the patient views their body or how they see themselves aesthetically. Role performance is where they fit in. Where do they fit into society? Where do they fit into the family? Self-esteem. Remember, this is how the patient values themselves and versus what they know about themselves. So self-esteem is about value and worth. And then what is your role? Your role, you identify early and educate your patients and encourage positive self-concept. That's it for our lesson on self-concept. Make sure you check out all the resources attached to this lesson. Now go out and be your best selves today. And as always, happy nursing.